introduce our first speaker for the night. As I'm sure all of you know, our theme is motion. A really cool part of that brainstorming process was when we got our team together and we were talking about what motion meant, so many people came up with so many different meanings of what that word motion meant. For example, some people thought of the stock market, some people thought of sports, some people thought of dancing, others thought of progress and moving forward in terms of political motion. And when we had that brainstorming process and saw all those different answers, we came to the conclusion that motion was the perfect theme for this year's conference. So, without further ado, I will bring Rebecca up and she will introduce our first speaker. Welcome and enjoy the show.
Hey guys, so as Cassie was saying, when we were kind of deciding on our topic of motion, the first thing that came to my mind was dance. And at first I thought maybe dance is a little bit too obvious for TEDxSetonHall. When I met our first speaker, I was proven completely and utterly incorrect. So our first speaker tonight is a senior from Muhlenberg University, and she's a double major in dance and neuroscience. So if you're anything like me, you're probably wondering what those two topics could have anything to do with each other. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jenna Neckritz and her team of dancers for our first talk.
Also from Muhlenberg. And today I'm going to be talking about how I've made dance and neuroscience more accessible. So I find that the fields of dance and science can be sort of exclusive. So for instance, when my friends come to see me give a talk on my neuroscience research, a lot of them feel really intimidated. They're thinking, how am I supposed to interpret the information that I'm going to hear? Because they don't have a background in science. And similarly, when my dad comes to see me perform in a dance show, he's thinking the same thing. How am I supposed to interpret the information I'm going to see? What is the artist trying to tell me? So I've been trying to make both of these fields more inclusive by entwining them. So more specifically, I've been using movement to teach neuroscience topics, and I've been using theories of consciousness to influence how I choreograph. And today I'm going to give you an example of both. So first I'm going to be explaining a part of the ear. So here in the picture that you see, there's three parts: the outer, middle, and inner ear. And the inner ear is called the cochlea. In the picture you can see that it's curled up like a conch shell. But if we were to roll it out, there would be a basilar membrane at the bottom. The part of the basilar membrane that's closest to the external world is called the base, and this is going to be on your left. And the part of the basilar membrane that's curled up to the tip is called the apex, and this will be on your right. There are inner hair cells on the basilar membrane. And the inner hair cells are connected to an auditory nerve, which is the orange string. And this allows them to send information to the brain. There are also outer hair cells on the basilar membrane, and they put the tectorial membrane on top of the inner hair cells. So when sound waves come in through the ear, it moves the fluid in the cochlea, and this moves the inner hair cells against the tectorial membrane. And this friction allows them to send a signal through the auditory nerve to the brain. The basilar membrane is set up like a piano, such that the inner hair cells at the base respond to higher tones, and the inner hair cells at the apex respond to lower tones. So with this information, let's see what happens. So hopefully you understand the cochlea better now. And now I'm going to transition and talk about, there's one more part about the cochlea that's very interesting, which is that the outer hair cells determine how big of a sound wave or a signal is sent to the brain.
So if you're at a really loud concert, there's going to be huge sound waves coming in through the ear, and the inner hair cells are going to move a lot. And this is going to send a huge signal to the brain. And since we don't want to overload the brain, the outer hair cells loosen the tectorial membrane, so it's harder for the inner hair cells to make friction with it, and they'll send a smaller signal to the brain. In contrast, if you're in a quiet classroom and someone is trying to whispering to you, the outer hair cells are going to tighten the tectorial membrane to make it easier for the inner hair cells to create friction with it, and they'll send a larger signal to the brain. Great, so now that is all that I have to say about it. Now I'm going to shift and talk about how I've been using theories of consciousness to help inform when I choreograph. So I first want to start by showing you a piece of choreography that I made that I think is a bit dry. It's hard to interpret. Now I'm going to talk about 4 aspects of consciousness and how I embed them in a piece. So the first one is that your consciousness is continuous. So when you wake up in the morning, you feel like you're the same person that went to bed the night before. There's no gap in your experience. So when I create a dance, I want there to be a continuous narrative. And the other aspects of consciousness help build upon this. The second aspect is that consciousness is filtered through our sense organs. So one example is through our eyes, where we can only see in the visible range of light. And that's why we can't see microwaves or X-rays or radio waves. And our visual system also highlights patterns. So I put patterns into the piece. The third aspect of consciousness is that it's constantly changing. So if there is an apple on my counter in the morning, when I come back to it later, it's the same apple, but there's different lighting, and I'm going to be really hungry, and so the apple is going to appear different to me. So when I include repetition in the piece, I make sure that it evolves. So we're going to look at the piece again. This time, it's going to have patterns and evolving repetition. That it's personal. So your conscious experience is going to be different from the person who's sitting next to you, and it's going to be different than every other person on this entire planet because of your past experiences. So in dance, I use posture and gestures and arm movement to elicit specific memories from the audience so that you can start creating your own continuous narrative on the piece. So we're going to look at the piece one more time with all of these aspects, and I hope that it elicits more of a feeling, that it's easier to interpret. So I've been working on making dance and neuroscience more accessible, and I challenge you to make your field more accessible, and don't be afraid to use some out-of-the-box methods. Thank you so much.